Hi, this is Alex, and in this video today I'm going to be covering what you need to know about visas and work permits for teaching English in Vietnam. And I'm going to cover the exact steps you need to take to get a visa and work permits, including all the documents you need for this process. Now, let me start off by saying that I'm not a visa expert, and what I'm about to tell you is just what we found from helping hundreds of people get started teaching English in Vietnam. And another thing is that the visa laws do often change in Vietnam, so please send us a message on ninjateacher.com and we can give you the most up-to-date information that we have so that you know you've got the latest info to go through this whole process. The first step of the process is to get your initial visa that you will arrive on in Vietnam. Now, there's two ways to get this. You can either get it at an embassy in your home country or in an embassy in one of the other countries. So you go to the Vietnamese embassy, you apply for it, and you get the actual visa in your passport, and then you simply fly in with that. The second route is to get a visa on arrival. Now, how this works is you get a letter online, you pay for that, it's usually about $30, and then you get a letter with your name and details on that you print out, and you use this to fly into Vietnam. When you arrive in Vietnam, you show it to immigration and then you pay a stamping fee to get your visa in your passport. Now, we recommend the second option because it's quick and easy and relatively cheap. It's very straightforward and it worked for me and it works for everyone we recommend it to. So I'll leave a link below to the place where you can go and apply for this. Simply click on it and get the letter, and then you can arrive on that. So there are a number of different types of visas that you can arrive on. I'm just going to give you my recommendation for the simplest, easiest, and cheapest option. For everyone other than American citizens, you can simply arrive on a 3-month single entry tourist visa. Now, the single entry visa means you can't go in and out during that 3-month period, but because you're getting set up in that period, you don't really need to anyway. And this is simply a $25 stamping fee after you get the letter online and you arrive with that. $25, pretty simple, and then you've got 3 months in the country. For Americans, Vietnam recently introduced a 1-year visa, so you can get a 1-year multiple entry tourist visa for $135 stamping fee. Now, there's actually only 1-year visas for Americans, so you do have to get a 1-year visa, but it actually works out cheaper than multiple 3-month visas. Just bear in mind that although it is a 1-year visa, you do have to go ahead and leave the country at the end of every 3-month period. So you've kind of paid for a whole year's worth of visas, but you still have to go in and out every 3 months on this visa. The next step is then to arrive in Vietnam and start searching and interviewing for a teacher English position. Now, this is also a good time during that period when you've got a visa to do an in-class TEFL course, quality English teaching certification, because as I'm going to cover in a bit, you do need to have teacher English certification as a government requirement for the work permit. So you can check out our 4-week-long TEFL course in Vietnam, which you can do at that point. But if you've already got a TEFL, then you can start interviewing. Schools do like to do in-person interviews. That's why we do recommend that you come out to Vietnam and search for jobs on the ground. You'll find a lot more options. And schools often do ask you to do a demo class, which is simply a class that you teach so that the school can observe your teaching and decide if they want to offer you a contract or not. Once you've been hired by a school, it's then time to apply for a work permit. And this is something that your school should assist you with. When you're interviewing, definitely check with them if they're going to help you get your work permit, and also if they will sponsor it or pay towards it some of the cost. That's something you should definitely discuss with the school, because if you got all the required documents, then you want your school to be able to sponsor your work permit. So what are the required documents that you need to bring with you to get this work permit? The first thing is your original copy of your bachelor's degree. So yes, you do have to bring the original copy. We've worked with schools that won't even interview people unless they have it. Bring the original. The second requirement is an original background check from your home country that's been done in the last 6 months. For example, you can get a state level background check in the US. It doesn't have to be an FBI background check. In the UK, you can get a basic disclosure. In South Africa, you apply in Pretoria. So you basically want to have the original with you. That is the most important part. And then the third requirement is to have a teacher English certification. And again, to have the original copy of it. It's really important to have that original copy. And this can be a TEFL, a CELTA, Trinity. As usual, we do recommend one that is fully in class, over a month, that has observed teaching. These are definitely more valued by schools. Some schools won't even consider people with online certifications. But just make sure you bring your TEFL certification and you can use that to apply for the work permits. The widely circulated information about this was to have them certified in your home country. But now we've been seeing that it actually makes more sense to just bring the original copies with you and have them certified in Vietnam. The reason I say this is, firstly, it is very expensive and time consuming and difficult to get them certified in your home country. For example, in the US, people have to send their original documents to the Secretary of State, have it certified there, then from there you send it to the Vietnamese embassy in San Francisco to have it translated, and then you bring those with you to Vietnam, and it is very expensive as well. Likewise, in Canada, the UK, Ireland, South Africa, New Zealand, and Australia, it can be expensive and time consuming and a lot of steps and effort. And what we actually found was a few people did this process, and then some little thing went wrong and the Vietnamese didn't recognize the documents, and they had to go through the whole process again in Vietnam and pay again. And even if they did it correctly, I heard of someone that had that happen to them. They had all the documents, they paid for it, went through the whole process, and they still had to have it redone in Vietnam. Certifying and notarizing the documents can actually be done in Vietnam. We've heard of a lot of people that have got all of the documents done in Vietnam. So that's why now we're just saying, bring the original documents. Don't waste your time and money. And when you have them in Vietnam, then you can get them certified in Vietnam and then apply for the work permit with those. Another thing you need to do for the work permit is get a health check done at a local hospital in Vietnam, and usually get a background check, Vietnamese background check as well. So that's why you actually can't apply for a work permit from abroad. You need to be in Vietnam to complete all the steps and have all the required documents that you can then use to apply for the work permit. So hopefully your school will help you out with all the details and guide you through this process. It can be a bit of a pain, but if you have all the documents, then you can apply for all these schools which won't even consider you if you don't have the correct documents. So there are a lot of good schools that only even interview you if you have these documents, because they go through the formal process of getting a work permit so that you're working legally at the school. So you'll usually start working for your school while the work permit is being processed, and then hopefully it'll come through once you've got everything together and you've applied for it. Then you get your work permit back. And then the final step then is to get a business visa with your work permit. So you can leave the country after your initial visa is up and then return on a business visa. And you can get a year-long business visa, so then you'll have the work permit plus the business visa. If you have any questions about this process, leave a comment below and I'll answer them. Or if you have any tips for people applying and getting a visa and work permit in Vietnam, leave a tip below. I'd love to hear if there's any great ways to make this process easier. Okay, so that's all for now. If you want to get started teaching, hit us up on ninjateacher.com and we can help you out with this whole process and finding a job. So until the next video, I'll speak to you soon. Peace.